Welcome to the Early Educator podcast. We talk about everything that you need when it comes to growing your business, overcoming obstacles, and making an impact on not only the children in your care, but to your community and your family. My name is Blake, and today we have Eric with us. And Eric, thank you so much for joining us today for this podcast.
Hey, how you doing? I appreciate you. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. So I guess we'll just go ahead and we'll start in the beginning. So Erica, what is that you do? What is that you do? What company are you with? And all that jazz.
Yeah, so I work for an organization called the Flourish Lab. We're based in Denver, Colorado. We work in about 26 states right now. And we work with the adults who work with young people. So any adults in any space who work with young people, we work with library folks and after school professionals, day school teachers, coaches. They're any adult who works with young people. We support them in their work and hopefully, I like to say, like, make the day easier. It can be challenging work to work with young people. And so having as many tools as possible, I think, is just really important.
Yeah, definitely. So for what you guys do, do you, I guess, why do you guys believe that early educators, that they're some of the most influential people when it comes to child's life, like professionally?
When you think about young people, they are like absorbing all of the things, like all of the things that are happening to them, that people are saying to them.
Mm,
They're absorbing it and absorbing it, and it becomes part of their story. It becomes part of who they are and how they see the world. It becomes a part of how they interact with the world. And so the adults in their lives are really important to develop in that lens, right? So if we have adults who are intentional about their actions, the things they do are absorbed by the young people, and they're able to use those as their kind of building blocks for life instead of when we're not intentional, we kind of just let things happen, or we live from our unconscious spaces. We just kind of do things in the world, and then the young people absorb that, and it kind of builds their view of humanity and society that way.
mm, gotcha. Yeah, I definitely agree. Um, so I'm shifting gears a little bit to like professional development. When it comes to professional development, what do you think educators we think they need, but they don't always get inside their profession?
I think there's like a lot of training on what to do, right? So there's a lot of
Hmm.
skills, like what are the rules and how do you follow protocol? And a lot of times licensing is a really huge thing that they've got to deal with. So they learn a lot of those procedural things. How do we do the things? I think the thing that we kind of try to come by, and what we believe that is oftentimes missing, is how do you show up? How do you just be,
Mm,
instead of how do you do the things, right? Like, we can learn how to do things really well, but to learn, like, how do I show up? What mindset do I have? How am I thinking about the young people? How am I thinking about the work? We try to come in and work with people on that. So I think that's the thing that people are missing oftentimes, because it doesn't feel like it's as important, or there's not enough time for it, because those other things have to be done, right? We
yeah.
have to learn PR. We have to learn how to use the system to check kids in. Those things have to be done. And so thinking about kind of those softer skills of how do you build relationships with young people, or how do you show up yourself, and how do you plan, those sometimes can fall off.
Yeah. So I guess this goes right in the next question. You mentioned that, like how they need to like learn a skill to just like show up. How can they like grow or show up whenever like they have a sense where like their time and their energy, where there's going to be plenty of days I'm sure where it feels very limited. So how can they do that?
Um, it's one of those things. It's a difficult prospect, because we all have lives outside of work. You
Yeah.
don't go to the program and then your problems stop at the door and don't. Your whole life is kind of with you. And so one of the things I think is really important is just intentionality. Like, how am I being intentional going from one space to another space? How am I intentionally, setting up my mood and understanding how I feel in those moments so I can go into this space? Um, I also think like leading with curiosity in moments can often it can stop us from not overreacting, but getting defensive or formulating like the story that we start to tell ourselves. If we can just be curious, um, and allow ourselves to step into things that way, like something just happened. What does that mean? Instead of this is what that means.
Hmm.
And I think sometimes, especially in program, we cause those problems for ourselves when we have that mindset of like, I know what this means, so I'm going to take care of it, instead of let me find out what this means, because I might not even have a problem here. But
Hmm.
but we kind of jump into action because that's the quick thing to do.
Yeah, that's a great question. You pretty much answered my next one. But yeah, the next question was like, what's one mindset shift that can make professional development feel less like an obligation and more like an investment? But I think you pretty much answered it. But if you have anything to add, feel free. But
Okay. I think for this one, I think more of like the organizational lens.
mm,
When we think of like, how do we, as an organization, what makes personal development important to us? Um, and I think that if the organization can believe that instead of spending the money to hire people, because the turnover can be great in after school programs, right? There can be a lot of it. Instead of spending money to hire people, let's spend money to invest in them and train them so that we can have these people build a culture. And so I think that's one of the mindsets. When I think about a mindset shift on the organization level, it'll be that, how do we invest in people so we can teach them the skills so that they can be okay to stay here and under, like, this is going to be tough sometimes, but they have they are able to get through it and have the mindset to continue in the work, instead of like, I can go, you oftentimes can find something similar with less stress for about the same money, right?
mm,
And if you can do that, it's like, sometimes why wouldn't you? And so I think organizations, like, how do we invest in people so the job, when the hard happens, they can get through it so it doesn't feel um, like something that's going to be a detriment to them continuing on the work.
mm, yeah, that's great. Cool. Um, so now guess going more in like the behavior management kind of side of things. So, from your experience, what's one common misunderstanding about child behavior that I think educators should reconsider?
Hmm. Um, I we I think at the Flourish Lab, we take behavior management as like, we kind of reject the premise of behavior management. When you think about,
Mm,
we believe that behaviors are just a human thing. They're not a young person thing. We all have behaviors. Like, every person has behaviors, and oftentimes, so to answer your question, what's one common misunderstanding? It's like this idea that young people should show up and be perfect when adults can't be perfect, right? Like, we oftentimes hold the young people to standards that adults couldn't live to. And so
mm,
how do we give grace to young people for like the stage of life they're in? They are supposed to make mistakes and have behaviors, right? They're
yeah.
learning, they're testing boundaries. How do you give them that space to just be like, you know what? You did a thing, you can still, like, hold the boundaries and give grace. Like,
Mm,
you're not supposed to do that thing, but um do it in a way that we're helping them learn from their behaviors, and not just punishment. And so I think that's the thing that I would say is like, adult, don't take it personally. Like, the behavior has nothing to do with you. It has
mm,
everything to do with this young person and the thing they're going through, the emotion that they're having at that moment.
mm. That's really great. That's really thoughtful way to think of things for sure. Um, so, how could educators respond to challenging behaviors, like in the way that support both the child and other and like their mental well being? You think?
Yeah. Mm. I think obviously there's a ton of ways. Like, and think everybody has to find their kind of groove. But one of the things I would just go back to was the curiosity angle. Um, when a behavior happens, what's behind the behavior? right? Instead of the behavior happens, I label this kid the bad kid, and now I'm watching for the behavior every day because this kid has done a thing and I can't let that go. It's
Mm.
okay, this kid had a behavior. What happened in this moment? Let's figure this out. And then we move on, right? And we give that young person the opportunity to show up a different way or the same way, but we're not carrying moment to moment the things that have happened, right? Like building up a story or, um, yeah, like building up an identity for this young person. This is who they are, and you never let them live past that. So it's like, be curious. What's going on? Solve this problem. Deal with this thing, and let it go. And then we'll deal with it next time. The next thing when it happens. Instead of like now I'm watching, waiting for the behavior.
Yeah, so like I guess like don't hold the grudges with children. Take it. Okay, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Like don't hold the grudge. Like let it go. Let it
Hmm.
go. Let's start again next time.
Yeah, that's an excellent point because I think we all have a tendency to do that, especially with like other adults. They do
Hmm.
something where like I remember what you did, and he does too. But kids, I feel like they just remember what happened like 5 seconds ago, and that's about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like you watch kids play, a kid will do something to another kid. They're mad at each other. 20 minutes later, they're like best friends again, right? They just completely forget about it. But the adult in the situation is we are like, oh my goodness, are they still going to be mad? Are they? We've got this thing still. And so I think it's like the adults have to work on letting it go like the young people do oftentimes.
Definitely. Yeah. 100%. Cool. So, I guess when it comes to like, I think one thing that educators have a big place in a role in is like being able to be consistent for children, like especially in. I feel like some children do not have that consistency with some people, like they might do an educator. So, I guess in your point of view, what kind of role does that consistency in a relationship play when it comes to like their behavior and just in general for young children?
Absolutely. Um, Consistency. I think our like just as human beings, just as like our creature, our brains want consistency. They want consistency. They want to know what's going to happen next. It's why we make up stories and why we have assumptions and why we have interpretations. Our brain is looking for consistency. When
Mm.
there's not consistency, I think it becomes harder for us to feel safe. And when you think about a young person, as you described, like inconsistency at home, they come to school. If there's inconsistency, it can build a psychologically unsafe situation for me, and then behaviors are inevitable. If somebody doesn't feel safe, if somebody like feelings create actions. When we have a feeling, we do a thing. And so if I'm a young person, come to program, I don't feel psychologically safe, behavior is inevitable. And then the people in the program say, "Oh my gosh, look at this kid doesn't know how to behave," and then they label them, and then this thing happens, right? Like the cycle happens. And so it's like when we create consistency in how we move and how we like do simple things, right? Like how we food and or whatever it may be. How are we giving out snacks? When are we giving out snacks? All of the things when we create consistency and kids feel safe, they feel their brain doesn't have to go into that almost survival mode or the guessing game or start to make up stuff or that's where uncertainty lives. I think it makes it hard for us to show up our best.
Mm. Yeah, definitely. Cool. So, let's go to the next question. So what does it really mean to partner with children instead of just like managing? So, like, yeah, what's the difference in that? 'Cause I feel like so often we think of like especially in the educator field where it is just like it is a job, but it is like how do we make that more than just a job? You know what I mean, and to benefit everybody.
Yeah. We think I'm trying to think about how to say this. Adults naturally have power over young people. So, we talk like in the country right now, we talk a lot about privilege. There's a lot of privilege conversations, and the privilege that we talk about a lot is adult privilege. Like adults have all of the power and privilege in the adult child relationship. We say what we say goes. And so realistically, any dynamic like that, there's friction. Anytime one group has all the power over another group, friction happens. And so when we think about young people, is how do we understand that dynamic as an adult? Like, I have the power, and give some to young people in ways that mean something to them, so they don't have to try to grab for it and try to have
Mhm.
this power struggle that happens. And so, there's a lot of ways you can do it, but really it's like, I think it begins with just understanding the power dynamic that I have as the adult and how it impacts the young person, or how it may impact them, right? um and just being conscious of it.
Mm. So, how can educators empower young people while still maintaining that structure and the expectation each day?
Yep. I've seen it done in a lot of ways. One of the things that I think is really powerful that I've seen done at some organizations is, um, you have a set of, like, here are 3 rules that are like non-negotiables. We're going to respect each other. We're not going to hit each other, and then we co-create them with the young people, right? And so now we've got the young people and their voices present, um, in that room, in the rules, and then just like, it really doesn't matter how old you are. We want autonomy a little bit. Like, we want to be able to do our things a little bit, right? And
Hmm.
so, in spaces where we can allow young people to make decisions or act for themselves, like, do it. Let them decide what activity they want to do. If you have an activity or you're doing a craft, give them many opportunities inside of that to kind of have some autonomy. But just giving them spaces to, build their own identity, build their own autonomy, and, yeah, just partner with them. Bring the dynamic, which is sometimes like adults here, young people here, try to bring that dynamic more here.
Great, that's really good. So let's see. Let's move to like the relationships, like when it comes to like relationships and like planning and presence. Um, so why are relationships the foundation of everything else in like early education, or
Yeah.
or do you think that?
I think, yeah, one of our foundational principles is relationships.
Mm.
And if you just expand it for a moment, like, relationships are important basically throughout your whole life, in every dynamic. At work, your working relationships really matter. Your family relationships, your relationship, if you have kids, excuse me, all of those relationships matter. And the quality of those relationships, often it matter. It really, it can change the dynamic a lot. And so when I think about, like, relationships with people, if you have a good relationships with people, you usually give them the benefit of the doubt, more grace, more willing to listen what they got to say, um, take advice from them, help them out. Like, all of those things are easier when there's a good relationship. When there's a bad relationship, all that stuff gets harder, right? Like, and so in early education, in education in general, it is no different with young people. When they have good relationships with the adults, they are more willing to listen. They're more willing to take instruction. When they don't, it's going to be pulling teeth. It's going to be hard, just like it would be for the adult if somebody they didn't like or didn't have a good relationship was bossing them around, or, giving them direction, telling them they should or shouldn't do. Nobody would want that, right? And so, young people, just because I'm 8 or 11 or whatever, doesn't mean I don't want that same human dignity and respect.
Hmm. Yeah. So when it comes to like planning ahead for things like meals or anything like that, um, that's one of the things we always harp on our staff and with educators is like being able to prepare ahead, especially with like meals and stuff like that. How can that actually help and benefit with educators to like stay present, like we've been discussing?
Hmm. Yeah. I think there's a couple of things. So the first off, one of the things we also believe, planning is really important. Planning builds relationships. Like, you can plan so well that you show people you care. We've all done it. We've all planned. Like, you plan a thing, somebody's like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you did this for me." It means something when you plan well. And it's the same way for young people. If you plan really well and you have the activity all, and it like, the young people are like, "Oh my, look at all of the back work they did for me," and it makes it easier for you. as the adult, right? So if I've planned well, the activity can go better or the program can go smoother. If something happens, I have a plan for that, right? Like it's an not only does it show the young people we work with that we care, but it actually is an act of caring for ourselves too, because when we plan well, it takes stress down, anxiety can lessen or is reduced. Um, and when that happens, we can show up, like you said, we can be more present. We can show up in our with our best selves forward instead of the one that has all the anxiety running because of all the things I should have done, or did I forget this, or did I, like, all of that runs in the background if we haven't planned well.
Yeah. So what do we do for like I know those educators are probably listening to this and they're thinking this sounds awesome, but I'm already stretched completely thin. Like thinking of planning even further ahead is just something that seems impossible. Do you have anything or any kind of advice you can give somebody who feels like they're struggling with that, where they feel like they're just stretched too thin to be able to plan, so they can be more present in that way?
Yeah. Um, yeah. So I'm just gonna keep saying this. Like, this is working with young people is it can be hard work. It is amazing fun and all of those things, and sometimes it's hard, and sometimes it's challenging, and sometimes, um, as you described, you're stretched thin, and there's a lot to do. And so, one of the things that I like to talk to people a lot about is when you work in an industry like after school or youth serving or nonprofits, where there's usually not enough staff and there's usually way more to do than you have time for. As long as you're willing to say yes, you will almost feel like you're being taken advantage of, right? There's
Mm.
always more to do, and if there's always more to do, it is then up to me to stop myself, right? And so, the thing that I would say is, like, know yourself, set some boundaries, and be firm to those things, so that you can take the time you need to recover, right? Because oftentimes, like, we the image or the analogy of, like, we have a full cup, you empty your cup and then you have nothing to pour from. And so we oftentimes do that. We empty our cup all day and then we try to fill it up at night before we go back to work the next day, and that almost never happens because you have like 3 hours really before you go to sleep. And so then the next day you're starting with an even lower cup. And so, like, just to make sure that you are, um first, like, maybe talking to people, letting them know where the overwhelm is happening, or where the stretch thin is happening, so that it doesn't feel so heavy just on you, right? But reach out to the people around you, um so that you can either get some help with some of the stuff you're doing, put some of the stuff back on them, or just have somebody to bounce off. Like, how do I set this boundary, or how do I, maybe stop doing some things here? Um, just somebody to kind of go through that with, I think.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's really great. Um, so I guess for one last question, if educators could change like one thing in their daily routine to really help to make a difference, what would you say would be that one thing that educators should change a day?
Oh, that's really tough.
Yeah.
Um, well, my obvious answer, not obvious, but the answer that comes to my mind first is, and it's outside of their control. So I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't use it. It's funding. Like, if they had more money,
Mm-hmm.
they'd have more resources, they could do more. Like, to me, that is like found. That's just like, I feel like I have to say that. Um, but the thing that beyond that, I think I just go back to what I said last time. They matter. Like, they matter the most. Um, there's this thing that I've seen. I can't remember where it's from. I wish I knew so I could quote it. But it's like, people who work with people who serve people have an ethical imperative to take care of themselves, because you cannot take care of other people if you're not taking care of yourselves. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think when we think about the adults who work with young people, that's one of the things that we think is really foundational, is how do you find time, make time to intentionally take care of yourself, maintain yourself, so that when you show up, you aren't pouring from that empty cup. You do have something to give. And it's not stretching your bound, like, you're not starting from stretching my boundaries.
Mm.
I think it's really important.
Yeah, that's really great. That's really good. That's great. Do you have any final remarks or anything you would like to say or mention at all?
Um, nah, I appreciate you giving us the time to kind of share what we believe. If if anybody's interested, the flourish.lab.org, you can learn a little bit more about our um, what we offer and some of the things we do and where we'll be next. But that's about it.
Okay, great. If somebody wanted to contact you, with the best way, just go through the website and go through
Yeah,
there.
go to flourish.lab.org. There's a contact us you can fill out, and we will get back to you pretty quickly.
Okay, awesome. Well, Eric, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Really appreciate it. And yeah, guys, I hope you guys enjoy this episode, and see you guys in the next one. Until then, you guys be safe and find some time to take care of yourself, like we just said. All right, bye, guys.
Thank you so much.